This FedGov Today program is sponsored by KPMG. On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, building sustainability into acquisition at the Pentagon. The 3 T's to jumpstart your financial management movement. And the State Department plots its next cloud move. Welcome to FedGov Today with Francis Rose. 11 sites are testing a new bio-based lubricant for weapons that could save the Defense Department money, improve user health, and work better than petroleum-based lubricants. The test is a demonstration of the Defense Department's Sustainable Technology Evaluation and Demonstration Program. David Asiello is Director of Sustainability and Acquisition in the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Energy, Installations, and Environment at DoD. Dave, welcome. Thanks very much for coming on the program. What's the backdrop, the background, kind of the elevator pitch for the STED program?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about this. We're very excited in DoD to have this program. It's basically an opportunity to give our warfighters, our men and women in uniform, the artisans that support that, technologies, products that will enhance their capabilities, operational readiness, but also help the environment and ensure the safety and their health going forward. So we're very excited. I
read that there are 2 important elements, both commercially available, these technologies that you're looking for, and that they address DoD needs and modernization processes. How do you evaluate whether something is enough of both, that it's something that you want to do a demo on?
That's a great question. So what we do is we take it to the operator. We let the users try it out, if you will. For many years, I was looking at alternatives, sustainable products, and we would hear things like, well, they do work, they don't work, we don't know if they work. And so this is an opportunity for us to let the warfighter, the user, say, yeah, it does work or it doesn't work. So we let them kick the tires, if you will. That's kind of a frame of art. And they give us feedback, honest, positive feedback to the success or failure, because I don't want to put anything in the warfighter's hands that's not going to give them the opportunity to do their job. So that's kind of the critical element of this whole program.
Where do you find these technologies, and how do you determine that this is one we want to test, this is one we want to wait on, this is maybe one that's not right for us?
Yeah, there's a variety of ways we do this. We have sister programs, research and development programs that we work with, strategic environmental research and development, environmental security technology certification, but we also work with the companies that we partner with. So we know in DoD we can't do this by ourselves, right? It's a partnership with our organizations, the military departments, but also those vendors that provide us these alternatives. We do want to make sure they work. We want to make sure that they have a sustainable aspect to them, whether it's less petroleum, more bio-based, but it also protects the safety and health of the warfighter. And so we get these from a variety of organizations. Our knowledge that we've had over time, but also through various platforms like sustainable product centers and things like that.
I mentioned that the bio-based lubricant project that I read about on the website is you're testing at 11 different places. How important is it to get a wide scope, a wide variety of feedback at a number of different places from people?
Yeah, that's critical, right? So a lot of these technologies, they are operating in so we operate all around the world, not just the United States, but all around the world. So we got to make sure that whatever geographical issues might affect us are accounted for. So testing them at a variety of different locations in a variety of different applications is really, really, really important. So having the warfighter understand that these are not only better for the operations, but better for what we're trying to do as a community and the local and surrounding communities that we operate and live in is important. So the more we get the word out, the better off we are.
When you do a demonstration, is the evaluation process as simple as it doesn't work or it does work, or is there more to it than that depending on what the application is?
Yeah, that's a really great question again. So it is a little bit more complicated than that. Sometimes it works in certain environments, sometimes it may not work as well. And if it doesn't work as well, we give the manufacturer the opportunity to try to maybe reformulate, maybe enhance the technology. Because again, the going in position here is we're not going to give our men and women in uniform a technology that won't work as well or better than what they're currently using. And so often though we find out it works much better. That's the beauty of this thing. these technologies work as well or better. They save the taxpayer dollars over the life cycle of a process, over a system. They're better for the environment. They're better for so many different reasons. It's almost just a win-win. I mean, that's why we have support on both sides of the aisle in Congress. The Republicans and Democrats support this program and fund us because they get the fact this is better for our operations.
Then that's where I wanted to go next, actually, is that this is a very popular program apparently on the Hill. And you're testing a pretty wide variety, pretty wide scope of things. What is kind of the scope of the program that you have now, and how big would you like it to be? What kinds of things would you like to eventually do demonstrations on?
Yeah, so a lot of our technologies are off the shelf, commercially available, mainly for just general communities. But what we're trying to do is take them to the operators. So a lot of these opportunities and these technologies are available, but they haven't been proven in a military environment. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the first step. Beyond that, now we're moving into more of an operational aspect. So like this cleaner lubricant preservative that we talked about, that you just mentioned we're demonstrating in a variety of installations, is something that came out of a research and development program, ESTCP, which is part of our office as well. And we've just shown that it's so much better. And when a warfighter, when a Navy SEAL or a combatant commander or somebody says, hey, I like this, much better than what I was using, I want it.
That's the win for you.
That's the win. That's
for
the
your
win.
office.
Yes, sir.
Another thing that I noticed as I read about this program is commercially available. I read that phrase a bunch of times. It's apparent that you're trying to not find something that's commercially available and then modify it for the Defense Department. You want to take this stuff off the shelf, try it, see if it works. Is that a fair read on that part?
That is a very fair read, and that's really what we're trying to do. I mean, for the most part. I mean, we work with companies like Goodyear, for example. We're doing bio-based tires for our fleet, our not just with the Department of Defense, but we're working with other federal agencies like Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and we're demonstrating these better products with Goodyear, with these other companies that show that we can meet our mission capabilities with off-the-shelf technologies and also enhance our operational readiness. It's just really wonderful.
I was going to ask you next if there are opportunities for other agencies to work with you on these things. It sounds like they're already ahead of my question.
Yes, sir. We've been working with a variety of different agencies, like I said, Homeland Security, Postal Service, EPA, Department of Energy. Matter of fact, we have a State Department. We have a MOU with the General Services Administration, which supplies a lot of our technologies, that if something passes my program, our program, not mine, the federal government's program, STED, it will be automatically included into our supply system. So we don't have to go through a variety of different testing and stuff if it works. It gets in the system, then the users, whether it's the federal Defense Department or other agencies, can then have it available.
Well, how do you evaluate the feedback that you get from the people that are testing these things during the demonstrations?
Yeah, so we have feedback forms. So what we do is when we take a technology to the user, most often in installation or in another federal agency's workspace, we ask them to tell us honestly what does work, what doesn't work. If it, like I said, if it doesn't work, we want to know why. And if there's a reason we can fix it, we'll try to fix it. If we can't, we're just not going to go down that path. Then we provide all that information in what we call the Sustainable Product Center, which is housed in one of our DoD sites called DENIX. And that gives the federal government, it's both not just federal government, but the general community can go and get that information.
Dave, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks very much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, sir.
You can read more about the STED program on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the 3 T's to jumpstart your financial management movement. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment.
Civilian federal service follows countless paths, each road unique, each journey distinct. WEPA has covered them all since 1943, from the demands of the job and accomplishments at work, to the joys of the family and milestones at home. From inside the office to beyond the Beltway, Group Term Life Insurance from WEPA has the coverage and benefits to protect you and your loved ones wherever Fed life leads. WEPA, for Feds, by Feds.
Welcome back. The Department of Defense has a 2028 audit deadline. That's when Congress has mandated that the entire department should get a clean opinion on its books. Joseph Nave is the principal at KPMG. Joe, welcome. Thanks for coming on. You've been ankle deep and elbow deep in audit for a long time, and you're writing about the 3 T's of financial management success. The first 2 are moving from transactional to transformational. What do you mean by that?
Right. So if you look at some of the challenges that our clients face across the organization and across the different functional lanes, you can have a nuanced problem that's very discrete, that's focused on one particular issue. So you go in and you solve that problem. When you look at transformational, you're really tying all those problems together, and that's where you're getting true reform, true sustainability. So it's really taking the pieces parts to make up the puzzle, and that's where you get into transformational, and then you layer in technology and all the other things that'll help enable the workforce and the change, and that's how you truly transform.
What are the biggest obstacles that people have run into in that move, in moving from looking at individual issues to thinking about things in a more holistic way?
Well, I think that, you know, there's no shortage of challenges, right? So it's really prioritizing. You know, you've got things that are right in front of you that may affect the mission, may affect the operations of the organization that you want to go after first. So it's prioritizing and really going after those things that are going to be highest risk, which may not always be financial. When you look at the mission of the organization, it's really focusing on what we need to do for the warfighter. So in the context of the DoD, it's prioritizing, and then once you bubble some of those priorities together, then you can come up with a cohesive strategy that affects all the different functional lanes and break down some of those silos.
The department made a big deal about the Marine Corps achieving a clean opinion, the first service to do it in fiscal 23. What's the biggest obstacle to making something like that replicable? Not necessarily just for the Marine Corps, but achieving a clean opinion is great, but you have to do it again next year.
Right. So the challenge is that every organization is different. You know, the criteria and what the requirement is for these entities doesn't change, but when you look at the ethos of the organization, or you look at what those particular challenges are, or where they are in the implementation timeline of some of their big system upgrades, or some of their processes where they're trying to become more efficient leveraging technology. You've got all of these different disparate points that you're trying to pull together, and from an audit perspective, that can tend to create a certain level of risk, because you don't want to implement something that's going to be challenging down the road that may not pass an audit. So you have to pull together all of those factors and look at the strategy of what you're trying to do organizationally to make yourself better and make yourself more efficient, but also layering in those criteria related to the audit and the accounting framework. So it can be a very challenging thing to accomplish, but that's where it's important to have cohesion amongst all the functional lanes, and also that tone at the top that you probably have heard folks talk about before, and someone driving the organization towards that end.
I have definitely heard about the tone at the top, but what builds that cohesion within the organizations, and I guess horizontally too, because you want to have, for example, in DoD, services aligned, moving in the same direction, even if they're working on different tasks.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the way that the federal government works, they work extremely well together. Really, the cohesion is just that synergy across functional domains, increasing, you know, getting together with the different organizations, whether it's, you know, the installations and logistics, or it's your comptroller, or it's someone out that's at the tip of the spear, or it's someone that's fixing a plane. It's pulling all of those folks together in a manner that is going to get them aligned to the vision and the strategy. The best way to do that many times is through industry events. It's also through symposiums that are hosted by the federal government. So there's a lot of different ways for them to coordinate and collaborate amongst each other. The clients that we serve, we've seen across the board that collaboration and cohesiveness definitely increase. Not only to, you know, you want to go fast, but you want to go fast smartly. Pulling all those people together, they're starting to realize a lot of returns on the strategies that they're implementing.
All right, we have a little bit more than a minute left. I mentioned the 3 T's, transactional to transformational, and the third T is transparency. Transparency for whom, and transparency about what?
Right, so, you know, we serve the American people. So when we look at transparency, we want to put together a strategy that is going to not only get an organization auditable, and there are many organizations that already are auditable, but it's increasing the transparency to the American public and the taxpayers, that they feel confident, that they know where their dollars are going, and also increasing transparency within the organization from a data perspective. Use data as an asset. Let's start looking at all the data that we have as an asset. And once we get that transparency and those complete sets of data and accurate data, then we can start to leverage it and really take the organization forward exponentially.
Quick final thought, about 30 seconds left. What's the best data for organizations to leverage? What should they make sure they have right first?
Yeah, so I think depending on which functional lane, someone's going to have a certain opinion about that. I think you have to look at all the data together. I think you have to have a clear strategy, a clear data governance strategy that shows you across all the functional lanes, whether it's procurement information, whether it's supply data, whether it's financial data. You can't look at those discretely, because if you do, you're kind of missing the end-to-end picture. So once you get the data and the data strategy in place, then you're going to want to look at all, and you're going to come up with those KPIs that are going to give you the best insight into your data.
Joe, thanks very much for joining me. I appreciate it. You can read more about the 3 T's on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the State Department plots its next cloud move. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment.
Large language models and generative AI are really helping us revolutionize how to address and prioritize threats, how to identify threats, and how to remediate those threats quickly. Again, if you think about the life of a cyber operator and all the work they have to do in researching a new threat or researching a known threat, and what is their organization most vulnerable to, how do I prioritize that, and how to remediate it? If you can have generative AI automate a lot of that response, it really shortens the time to address the vulnerability in the kill chain and stop that threat from impacting your environment. So it improves the security posture and also improves the efficiency of your operation.
Welcome back. A component of the State Department is moving to operationalize the cloud. Jimmy Hall Jr. is Chief Information Officer at the Bureau of Intelligence and Research at the State Department. At DoD's 2024 recently, he tells me the next step in his cloud transition is workflows.
And what workflows we put into the cloud, and what workflows that we put into backup and recovery. So the progress is going swimmingly well. You'll probably hear me say this throughout, but we're not where we want to be, right? But we're going to continue to work at it. So I'm extremely proud of the team, extremely proud of where we are, and look forward to the next steps.
Where do you want to be?
I want to be in a complete hybrid environment, right, with the workflows into the cloud, all right, our users able to conduct the work that they need to do, our diplomats are able to get the information that they need when they need it in a timely fashion, and then have the necessary backups and recoveries in place that every true IT organization would have in support of its mission. And so that's where I want to get to. And I still think it's a multi-year process. So I got a couple more years before I get to exactly where I want to get to, but we're going to hang in there. And like I said earlier, I'm proud of where we are. So, yeah.
What are the major steps that you need to take between where you are today and realizing that vision that you just described?
I think if you look at it from the start, there's a set of principles that we go in with, right? From cost management being one, to integration, to security, and all those things that you look at. And then those same principles become challenges. And so I have to look at those challenges as well, right? From cost management to integration to security at all times. And I talked earlier about information being available to our diplomats, and we need to be there. And so now I need to just kind of scorecard ourselves on where we are with the initial set of criteria that we said that we wanted, right? And then after that, then I want to now put my plan into implementation, which is a hybrid plan. There's 2 vehicles that are out there. There's the C2E and JWCC, and so I'm looking to at least establish relationships with 3 or 4 cloud service providers. And so that's what I need to do to get to where I'm comfortable. And then, as I said earlier, get the backup and recoveries in place and ensure there's storage and ensure adequate global coverage. You may remember the last time I talked, I said as part of my job as a CIO of INR, is to provide global TSSCI connectivity for our diplomats, all right? So we still have a global mission, and we still have those global efforts. And then the challenge is that we're in 270 locations. We're in 190 different countries, and that's roughly 150 different languages. And so the challenges are just not geographic. Challenges are not just security with the cloud, but some of the challenges are language and culture.
And so all of that kind of rolls into scoring ourselves each day and measuring ourselves where we want to be.
The C2E reference is understandable. I'm interested about the JWCC possibility because I think there are a lot of folks when that rolled out that expected to see that in use exclusively in the Defense Department. There's no policy or anything that said that that had to be the case. So it's interesting that you and I imagine others on the civilian side are exploring that as a possibility too.
Right, that's something we're all proud of, right? The IC community and DoD partnering together and getting out to this cloud initiative. And at one point, you're correct there. It was two separate vehicles and two separate avenues. And now the organizations and entities have come together and said, why not? Why can't we work together and partner to get us to where we need to be? You know, security for sure is a team effort. And not only is it a team effort, right? It's going to take all of us. And today, when we think that we've arrived, you know, tomorrow it presents its own set of challenges. And so this partnership is unique, but it's necessary. So I'm happy with where we are there.
Do you think your military background gives you an extra advantage, worldview, or strategic thinking when you're thinking about basically what you're doing is the same thing as the edge computing environments that DoD users and IT providers are thinking about?
Yeah, I would like to say my military background contributes to the success of the organization. And you may remember I was able to complete 5 years of service in DoD and Defense Security Service, plus DCSA. Prior to that, 30 years in the Army. And so I would say, yeah, it's definitely given me a good foundation of leadership and a good foundation of perspective, both in the intelligence community and the global aspects and the nature of what we need to do today, which is provide that TSSCI information environment for our diplomats. So it's very helpful.
I want to go back to those two cloud vehicles that you talked about earlier. How do you analyze what's the best fit? Which vehicle is the best fit for the different use cases that you're going to process? Yeah,
well, I'll go back to my military background. And so the first thing that we do is we take do a business assessment. Right, and now we look at the business assessment. After looking at the business assessment, then we determine if this aligns with our goals. And if the business assessment and our goals align, and the cloud service provider can meet those core principles that I said earlier, from cost management to security to integration to the things that are concerning to me and my role, then that's generally the next steps, right, of deciding on which cloud service provider to go to. And so that's what I use as a general guideline and general basis.
What's industry response been like as you are working with them, and what makes for a good industry partnership as you're building out the infrastructure that we've talked about?
Yeah, so as I've gone out, and thanks for the opportunities like this, as I've gone out and talked about, you know, where we want to go as far as cloud adoption, the industry response has been fantastic. And what you want is to have so many vendors come to you that you have to decide and make a tough choice. And so I've had some tough choices to make. In terms of the industry engagement and folks stepping up saying, hey, I can help you get to where you need to get to. The second phase of this is that I'm acutely aware that I can't get it done alone. Right? I need the industry and I need our contract support to get us to where we need to be from a cloud perspective and get us to where we need to be from a cybersecurity perspective. And then to get us to where we need to be from a modernization perspective. And all of those are like it's a win-win-win-win all the way around. And so I'm thrilled with the response. I thank our industry partners. I'm happy with the response of our government team, our government employees, as we now look to those flexibilities that the cloud will provide for us.
A lot of discussion at the show about artificial intelligence and automation tools for cyber defense and for other opportunities. Are there automation opportunities that you see as you build out the cloud environment or other work that you're doing at State?
Sure. Let me just start with a cybersecurity perspective. And so automation is something that's sorely needed. Well, first of all, we're not going to be able to take the human out of the equation, nor do we want to take the human out of the equation. We're looking for those places that we can be more efficient at what we do. And so automation and cybersecurity, log reviews, performance review when it comes to our network, you know, automation and AI can help us do those things, right? Even the Intel analysts that do great work inside of I&R for the secretary and for our diplomats and for our senior policyholders can use and benefit from AI without taking the human aspects out of it. And that's what we're looking to do is automate where we can, have that human interface. And then at some point, you know, they both come together and we're able to deliver a product that's commensurate with our mission set, which is to deliver the timely and objective intelligence to the secretary, senior policymakers, and our diplomats.
How will you judge the timeline, the trajectory that you're on to achieve the vision that you talked about earlier in this conversation, Jim? You said it's a multi-year timeline that you expect to see, but I'm sure that time mileposts aren't the only thing that you're tracking.
Well, sure. I would judge it based on phases, and maybe this is my military background. So we've decided to phase our way through, and then we've decided to iterate. And what I've asked the team to do is deliver capabilities, right? And as we deliver those capabilities, then improve on those capabilities as we deliver them. Doing nothing is not an option. And so I'm looking to iterate. I'm looking to phase our way through, and that's what I'm going to use it as our benchmarks. You know, some of our program managers look at it as sprint cycles. And so we've broken down our tasks in terms of sprint cycles. And lastly, the Secretary has a modernization effort. And I want to align with the modernization effort from the Secretary. So that's going to be a scorecard of mine. And then the Assistant Secretary for I&R has 5 strategic goals that we're measuring ourselves against, 2 of which are squarely in my wheelhouse: undertaking digital transformation and also strengthening cybersecurity. So there's constant measurements going on. And then internally, some of the things that we didn't have when I arrived is that now we're doing a metrics review. And we're taking a look at metrics of not just ticket management, not just user management, but where do we want to be in terms of delivering user experience. And so that's going to be important for us as well.
Jimmy Hall Jr., it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much. And thanks for the invite. And just remember, I'm focused on modernizing IT. I'm focused on securing our IT systems, and I'm focused on expanding the TSSCI environment.
You can read more about the Bureau of Intelligence and Research at State on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today continues in a moment.
There's been a lot of tech debt that's been built up over the years. There's been a lot of deployments that solve certain challenges of 5, 10 years ago. And some of those challenges and some of those reasons still hold true today. But now we start to look at, well, what innovations have been around over the last decade? And I think some of the challenges that we're faced today, especially around data, is, well, what data do I have? Where does it reside and who's accessing that data? And more importantly, do my controls that I've purchased, are they allowing me to have certain controls over those various different data sets? And I think that's kind of one of the big missing links today.
Welcome back in today's event spotlight. I'll see you at the Tungsten Automation Public Sector Summit. It's this coming Thursday, December 12th, at the Karasoff Technology Center in Reston. The focus will be empowering your mission through automation. You can read more about the summit and register at fedgovtoday.com/events. FedGov Today TV returns next Sunday morning at 10:30. The federal CIO, Claire Martirana, is here, and Charles Worthington, the CTO and Chief AI Officer at VA, will be here too. I'm Francis Rose. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching, and have a great week.